Hey everyone, today we're going to do a review of the Crescent Crew Tandem Kayak. Reel it in! Yeah! Lucas got a fish! So if you're like me, you will make list after list of kayaks and gear that you're thinking about buying, and I certainly did that with this kayak. And I'm going to let you know if all of that research paid off by doing just kind of a basic overview of the boat in its stock form, how I have it set up for fishing when I go out on the water. And please be sure to like and subscribe for future videos where I'll follow up and let you know how it performed after several months of use. All right, so as most of these videos go, we're going to start at the bow of the boat. And straight away, what I think sets this kayak apart, they have designed it to have a more bulbous nose, and I believe that does, after having used it a couple times, help it deal with chop and waves a bit better than a boat with a little bit lower profile. Handle's fine, could be a little bit bigger, but generally speaking I like its position and it feels fine in hand. You'll see that I've added a Yak Attack anchor trolley that does not come standard on the boat. Neither do the Yak Attack rail systems, which I've installed, but you can certainly purchase those, add them yourself, or have someone professionally install them. As you can see, there's molded in foot pegs. I personally haven't used them. My wife has though, and she had no complaints. She found them to be sufficient for her. And as we're starting to get into the hull of the boat, you can see that I think what makes this kayak a bit different from any other fishing kayaks or kayaks in general is it's just really kind of an open deck. It's very flat. There's not a whole lot of clutter or things in the way. And I'll speak to more of that in a bit, but I think that's what makes this really an ideal tandem, particularly a family tandem. That's great, I think, for use with kids. So again, you know, the deck of the boat is very flat, it's easy for standing up on, and it, you know, the times that water has gotten into the boat for whatever reason, it, you know, did a really good job of channeling it to the scuppers, draining very quickly. There was no standing water in the boat at all. Two molded in cup holders, that's always helpful. So for the person in the back, a little bit more deck space, a little more room. And of course you've got your adjustable foot pegs, which, you know, I found were great. They function really well, pretty smooth, no problems at all. And stay in place. I feel secure when I'm using those. I don't feel like my foot's gonna slip off or they're gonna, you know, come loose or something. So I guess Crescent has decided to mold in these I guess they're sort of like a holding place for tackle or any other little accessories that you might have that are just kind of loose in the boat. I've actually found that I'm going to put an 8-inch Yak Attack rail on the right hand side for me. I found that to be a better placement for a rod holder, you know, so that it's not in the way when I'm paddling and it's not in the way of the person in the front's paddle. I did put a rod holder over here towards the back end of this rail, and I found that when my rod was there, it was interfering with my wife's paddling. So not ideal, but I think there's a workaround for that. And it just involves drilling more holes in the boat, so we'll see how that goes. This is probably a good time to cover the seats. They're extremely comfortable, very well made. I've got them wet while sitting. I didn't feel like I was soaking wet or, you know, sitting in water the whole time. And while we're talking about the seats, one thing I love about this boat is being able to rotate this front seat so that you're able to face each other. And I guess that could be romantic, but I found it useful on a recent fishing trip with my son who's 5 years old. It's really difficult to go fishing with a kid, particularly in a kayak, and this enabled me to hear him well. We were actually fishing underneath a bridge that was really noisy, and I didn't really think about ahead of time how difficult it would have been to hear him communicate with me if he was facing the other way. Kids are often hard to understand as it is, but having him face me made it a lot easier to hear what he needed, and certainly to help him deal with his tackle issues and all that. Another nice feature of the seat is, and I can skip to a video that's going to show this here, they lay down flat. And again, on that same fishing trip with my son, he was getting tired, he was getting bored, so I was actually able to get up and just lay the seat down flat for him just by loosening the straps, and he was starting to take a nap. He actually didn't fall asleep, but he was pretty close to it. So in theory, if your kid gets sleepy on the water, you could lay them flat. Always make sure they have a flotation device, a life vest on, of course, keep a close eye on them, but that is an option, and that worked well for us. And yeah, the square stern in the back, you could certainly add a motor. Maybe that's something we'll do in the future, but it's always nice to have that option. But generally speaking, this is kind of a quick and dirty review of the boat in its stock form. I'm going to load it up with my fishing gear and kind of show you how so far I've had it set up for the water. But yeah, it's kind of a no frills boat that is super stable, tracks really well. I actually found it to be really quick despite its size when paddling, either as a single, certainly as a double. You really notice it when you're paddling it just a single person, and I have my son in the front. It stayed straight as an arrow, and it was pretty quick. I was really surprised with the appropriately sized paddle. It did really well. So I'll go ahead and get it set up with my fishing gear, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of what is possible with this kayak. All right, so here you can see we have the Crescent Crew tandem set up in a configuration that could work for fishing. It's how we did it recently. I'm still going to be making some changes and modifications to it, and I think that's another advantage of this boat is it's so customizable. You can really just do what you want with it. As you can see, we have the paddles mounted on these Yak Attack roller mounts, and they're great, and we have them set up in a perpendicular way. I don't know that that's necessarily what you'd want. My wife was pretty happy with it in the front. I actually have some 4-inch extensions to offset the paddles to the side of the boat, because this just really didn't work for me. And the one problem with my paddle being where it was is when my wife was paddling and I had mine stowed, she was going to be hitting it. So that's one thing that's really important about this boat that you should know if you're considering purchasing it, is there are no molded in paddle holders or bungees or really anywhere to store the paddle that comes stock on the boat. So I think the ideal solution is you can get these 4-inch extension arms, and you put them in the railings, and then you would put your Yak Attack paddle rollers, and it will put the paddles kind of offset from the boat and out of the way of everything. And the other advantage of that is it keeps all the other rails free for use if you want to put other accessories on there. If you could just put the rollers on the rails, but again, that'll just line the paddle up with the other rails and kind of put them out of commission. So not necessarily a great thing, but there's always a workaround for it, and I think that will hopefully work for us. So moving towards the back of the boat, you can see there's a little bit of a gap in between my chair and the crate, and that worked really well to store a small cooler box for our lunch and some drinks. And then of course you got our fishing crate there with all of our tackle and first aid kit and our anchor and everything stored there. I added some extra rod holders, so we have some heavier rods and reels for whatever type of fishing we want to do. So we hit the water with 4 different rods when we go out, 2 for each of us. Got to have the net just in case, and that's worked out really well for us. I'm just sort of using the bungees that come stock with the boat to hold the crate down, and it was fine. It felt really stable. And then you've got just a little bit of extra space in the back there. We used a separate bungee to hold a cooler bag and an ice block in there to keep any catches that we had fresh, for when we got home and could clean them. All right, everyone, so I think that's going to do it. I hope you found this video helpful if you're considering this kayak. Again, we really like it. It's really stable, tracks really well, great with kids. I think that's really where this boat shines, is it's really just very open and flat. And turning that seat around really helps if you have a small kid with you fishing in the boat, because you don't want it to be stressful, and having things out of your way and being able to keep an eye on your kid and communicate with them is ideal when you're out in the water. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe. We're going to do some follow-up videos in a few months on this boat, see how it's working out for us. We'll update you with any changes we've made. And yeah, that'll do it. Take care.